Ed Bernstein Show. Now, here's Ed.
Hi, welcome. Today, our guest is the Las Vegas foodie himself, John Extraordinaire Food Critic Curtis.
Extraordinary.
Who just returned, by the way, from London, having his share of fish and chips.
Oh, I love fish and chips. And once you've had it in London, Ed, you'll never be satisfied with fish and chips anywhere else again. Right. It's just magical over there, especially at Christmas time. Yeah. Yeah, I love London.
Special fish on Christmas Day.
Yes, of course.
But look, getting closer to home.
Closer to home, closer to eating Las Vegas. Yes.
And eating, and I should mention before I forget, eating Las Vegas is
shameless plug alert.
Right.
Thank you, Ed.
That you update from time to time with the newest and the best. But for real current things, you can be found on where? Instagram?
Eatinglv.com, on Instagram at John Curtas, on Twitter. I still do a lot of Twitter. I'm a tweeter. I'm at Eating Las Vegas on Twitter.
Okay.
So you can follow me there if you like Twitter. Mm-hmm. I have nothing to do with Elon Musk. I just like it because I can just I just talk about all the places I eat every day and put pictures and recommendations on there. That's what I do. So
and this is the real stuff. I see you out and about, working. I mean, it's work for you. I mean, eating
it's a second job. It started out as a hobby, but over 25 years, it's become a second job.
Right. John is actually an attorney on the other world that he lives in, but he's so knowledgeable about food. And this being a new year, and this being Las Vegas, there's a lot of new things that have happened and a lot that are probably coming.
Yeah.
And let's talk about some of the restaurants that have been kind of breakthroughs for you over the last year.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year. Very
I know that there's this steakhouse that you like in Henderson.
Can you believe it? Henderson has a food scene now. I mean, go figure. 138 degrees. It's way out on Horizon Ridge. I mean, in my head, I thought I was in Kingman, Arizona when I got there. It was so far out, okay? But it's out there, 138 degrees. It's got a wonderful meat aging program like they've before now have only done on the Las Vegas Strip. So the chef owner's Matt Meyer, and he does this meat aging where you can get steaks that are aged 30, 60, 90, 120 days. He does ribeyes, he does fillets, he even ages salmon of all things, but he lets it get that 30 to 60 to 90 day crust on it, which intensifies the beef flavor, and it's what true aficionados really go for. So we've got this in all places, Henderson, Nevada, and I'm really, really high on 138.
Two quick questions. 138, is there significance to, it must be degrees to...
That's the steak he says is the optimum temperature for the interior of a really, really well-done steak.
Okay. And is there a limit on how much or how long you can age meat?
Well, that's a good question because 20 years ago, nobody knew about dry aging. I mean, it was done in a few very particular steakhouses, maybe in New York City and other places. Suddenly, about a decade ago, people started getting on the bandwagon. And Carne Vino, which was the Battaglia Steakhouse in the Venetian Palazzo, really made it big here, starting about 2009, 2010. And then it's... they were aging steaks there anywhere from 30 to, wait for it, 14 months. I actually had a 14-month-old steak at Carne Vino at one time. But yes, there is a limit. Generally, as Matt Meyer will tell you at 138, the sweet spot is 30 to 90 days, and that's what you look for.
Okay. So, and a little bit more casual. I know that sometimes you like to talk about Carson Kitchen.
Yeah, I want to talk about new place I love, Carson Kitchen. I mean, new place is that 138 degrees. Also, we don't have any photos about it. Rosa Ristorante is another new place out in Henderson. Henderson's getting great right now. But I decided to revisit an old place recently, just an old favorite. That's Carson Kitchen down on East Carson. And it really was the restaurant that started the downtown restaurant revolution about 8.5 years ago. And I hadn't been in a long time. They have a great new menu there. I think I did some oysters, grilled oysters, which knocked me out. Let me see. Let's look at some pictures we got going here. The grilled oysters knocked me out.
They look delicious.
Oh, the pulled pork tacos are just wonderful. They do this cauliflower there with Moroccan spices and fruit, which will make a vegetarian out of a carnivore. It's so good. You don't even notice, that it's vegetarian. And I mean, Carson Kitchen's one of those casual, they call them gastropubs, where you can just go in there for one bite or a big meal, but it's great. And it's been hugely popular and really was a game changer downtown.
And for lunch or dinner. Right?
For lunch and dinner. It's very big with the business lunch crowd.
Over the last year, the Palms has reopened.
Yeah.
It used to be, look, Barry's downtown used to work there at Scotch.
Originally he was at
9.
At 9, then it became Scotch 80 Prime.
Right.
And now he's at Barry's. But we'll get to the steakhouse there in a little bit, but Vetri reopened there. And Vetri is Mark Vetri is the Philadelphia's best and most well-known Italian chef. He opened Vetri in the Palms back, I think it was like about 4 years ago when they first opened up, 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Closed during COVID, like a lot of people did. And I was one predicted he would never be back because his food is very creative Italian food. This is not your chicken parm stuff. This is not just pasta bolognese. This is really creative stuff that Mark Vetri does. And he's reopened. And his pastas are the thing there. But he does foie gras with mostarda. He does this thing I always called quesoncelli. I always have trouble pronouncing it. Quesoncelli with bacon and sage, which is like his signature pasta dish. Everybody gets it there. He does a beautiful fusilli with lobster and saffron. Go there for the pastas. He does roasted goat of all things, which which people love. And again, roasted a whole goat. Fish in
You've had it. What does goat taste like?
Goat tastes sort of like it's not as gamey as mutton, but it's gamier.
Oh, that helps a lot.
Maybe I'm damning it with faint praise. Okay,
compare it to chicken.
It's a gamey meat, okay. but I think. It's very rich and densely flavored. Okay, it's not for if you're the kind of people who like just chicken that tastes like nothing and your steak that tastes like nothing, you won't like it. But an aged steak, like you get at 138 degrees, right. and roasted goat have this deep, rich flavor that a lot of connoisseurs really love. And take the plunge sometimes. It's kosher too. Goat is kosher. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, so and it's probably the only place in town.
But they chew their cut or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Or don't.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, all those rules baffle me.
Yeah.
But aside from some taco stands, Vetri at the top of the Palms, the only place you can get roasted goat. But that's just one of his proteins. He does vegetarian food. I love Vetri up there. It's probably our most spectacular and one of my favorite, maybe the best Italian restaurant in Las Vegas.
Ooh, that's a great achievement coming from you. There seems to be a lot of great tapas places that are now frequenting our town. Some high end, some mid-range. What do you like?
Well, tapas. Nobody knew what tapas were 15 years ago. Right. Now they're, thanks to Jose Andres in a lot of places. Of course, I like Ito, which was our favorite. We can talk about that later.
You can talk about Ito later.
Ito's great. Yeah. But a place that's been around for a decade now is Forte Tapas at this very, it's off of Rainbow and Flamingo. Rainbow and Flamingo. And I always forget the cross streets. It's tucked into a shopping center. And they call it European tapas. They do Spanish food, Bulgarian food. They do Russian pelmeni. They do something called khachapuri, which is this giant bread loaf with cheese, beautiful lamb chops, caviar pizza. I think you can see on the picture we're running here. Just the kind of place where you can go big or go small, cheap or expensive, and kind of tailor make your meal to whatever your hunger or your pocketbook allows. And I really love that about Forte Tapas.
Okay, now I'll take a guess at how to pronounce this next restaurant that you like. This is, I assume, Japanese.
Izakaya Go.
Izakaya Go, and does it translate into something?
Well, izakaya is, like I speak no Japanese except domo arigato.
You eat Japanese.
I know sushi and domo arigato, and that's about it. And konnichiwa, that's all. But izakaya is a Japanese pub, sort of like a Japanese eating or drinking establishment, right. Very casual. A Go-hashi is the first name of the owner of Izakaya Go, and it's right there on Spring Mountain near Arville, and it is just wonderful. I mean, it's wildly popular with everybody who likes Japanese food. You see a lot of young kids in there. You see a lot of families. You can get sushi. You can get Japanese skewers, which are all the robata yakis things, right. And the yakitori skewers of chicken and whatnot. And you can get really nice sushi. They're open late. Izakaya Go is like a favorite.
Let me ask you about Chinatown, because it's very confusing to me. You drive down Spring Mountain, there's restaurants on both sides, plentiful, and you don't, sometimes you just don't know where to go. So when you're driving down, this must happen to you occasionally, you see a couple new locations opening up. Right. How do you know if something... is there some sort of sign when you walk in that you know that this is going to be a good Japanese restaurant?
Well, what I do is I send my wife in advance, okay? The food gal goes, and she her best friend is a Korean Chinese American. And they meet in Chinatown all the time. So they're always saying, oh, we saw this new place, this new Korean barbecue place, or this new izakaya place. So they go in advance a lot. But I think you look for something. A lot of what I look for in Chinatown is a lot of big Asian franchise food money has come into our Spring Mountain Road that wasn't there 10 years ago. So I look for places that are not all you can eat. All you can eat. When you see forget premium all you can eat. There's no such thing as premium all you can eat anything. When you see all you can eat, I avoid it. I look for places that are locally owned, that have a mom and pop feel. A place like Izakaya Go. You walk in, the owner is there saying hi to everybody. He's got 6 chefs back there. You see a line out the door is
good sign.
Is a good sign. But there are franchise all you can eat places that have that too. Right. But you look for that local owner. You look for that vibe that tells you, like a Shanghai Taste is a dumpling joint on Spring Mountain Road, which is owned by a local chef, and it's about as big as the studio we're sitting in. But there's always 15 people lined up for the dumplings they have. Those are what I look for.
Stay away from revolving sushi.
Revolving sushi, all you can eat. That's the kind of stuff I hate. And by definition, all you can eat anything means they are spending as little as possible on the food.
Right. You're getting
so they can make money off of what you eat.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend a little more money and get higher quality, and that's what I look for in Chinatown.
One thing that I think Vegas has lacked over the years has been a good deli.
It's your fault.
Well, I don't know if
it's all your fault.
But we used to have. There was a time I remember when the Forum Shops opened here in Las Vegas. They had a stage deli.
It was great. Remember that?
You're right. I do remember that.
Carnegie Deli was in the Mirage.
Right. Well, it got a little bit commercial after a while. It wasn't as good as the original Carnegie, but we do have finally a good deli.
Bagel Mania. Bagel Mania finally showed up. The reason I blame you is because the Bernsteins of the world should have been supporting delis all this time, okay? That's what I say. God darn it.
Okay,
but we do have Bagel Mania now. And Bagel Mania is superb. And it is Siegel's Bagel Mania. I know they're big business people in town. But it's this giant old school deli. They make their own bagels there, and they're great. We were just there. On Christmas Day we went. Was it Christmas or New Year's Day? Christmas Day. I think it was great, and great smoked fish, beautiful sandwiches, a menu that's like
huge.
It's like an encyclopedia. It's so big. This thing is so huge. But I love Bagel Mania. I like the fish they serve there. The service is always spot on. It's take in, dine out. So Bagel Mania is a big hit with me.
A kind of a landmark in Las Vegas. For for as many years as I can remember. Used to be over in Commercial Center. It was the first Thai restaurant that I had ever eaten at in Las Vegas at the time. Yeah, it was Lotus of Siam.
Yeah.
I understand they closed that and opened up a new location that I have not been to yet. And how is it?
Well, it's great. It's out in Red Rock Hotel and Casino out that way, and it's huge. And if you always have trouble getting a seat at the old Lotus of Siam, just drive out to the west side of town, because I think they have like 270 seats in the new one. Same menu, though, as they do. They've had an interesting 10 years there, because they were huge for the first 15 years of the century in Commercial Center. Then they had this flood that closed them down. They reopened on East Flamingo, and suddenly were a big hit nearer the Strip on East Flamingo. Tried to reopen the one, the original one on Commercial Center, but then COVID killed that, and I don't think it's coming back. I think they're going to be permanently on their East Flamingo location, which is a beautiful restaurant.
Smart decision.
And the big one out at Red Rock Hotel. And the family, as we showed the picture, Saipan Chuttama and her family, Penny Chuttama, they are just wonderful people. And it's really some of the best Thai food in the country. And we have it right here in Las Vegas.
Look, Commercial Center has had its day.
It's
come and gone.
It's
come and gone.
Yeah, I mean,
And I wanted to talk to you about bread. I grew up in Philadelphia. The world of hoagies and steak sandwiches and Philly cheesesteaks.
And good delis.
And good, for sure, and bagels.
Yeah.
And everybody for years has told me that whether it's Philly or New York, that the key in bread is the water and the humidity of where it's made. Yeah. That's what I've always heard. So I never really expected much out of Las Vegas when it came to
bread.
Great bread.
Have you been to the Daily Bread?
I have not.
You should go to the Daily Bread. It's out in Desert Shores, right next to Marché Bacchus. And it is a hole in the wall. I mean, it's just a door. Mm-hmm. You can't even really see it from the parking lot. They have put a little banner out front now that says the Daily Bread, sort of a burgundy banner. And you walk in. Again, the whole place has to be 500 square feet, if that. And the chef is Scott Cumming, and this guy knows his pastries and knows his breads. I mean, he makes fresh bread, fresh pastries every day, just lunch and dinner. I think they close around 2:00 in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. But he's gotten a following already. There's only about 6 or 7 tables outside. And you go there and you pick up your bread. You can pick up your croissant, your various pastries, muffins. He does beautiful eggs, omelets, all kinds of breakfast food. And it's been a big hit. And it's the ultimate hole in the wall, and probably making some of the best bread that Vegas has seen in a long time. Right there, you can buy it retail. It's great.
And his chocolate chip cookies look pretty good.
Chocolate chip cookies. Oh, and some of his turnovers and his muffins and things are to die for.
If you were to have one dinner that is going to be the most special dinner for me in Las Vegas this year, where would you go?
I'd send you to Guy Savoy in Caesar's Palace. I mean, he's now been there since 2006, and it's as good or better than ever. It is a big deal meal, top flight French it's not cheap. Yeah, it's big bucks deluxe. But wonderful wine list, intensive care service. I don't want to offend my friend Guy, because I've eaten at both Paris and the Las Vegas locations this past year. I mean, not quite as good as the one in Paris, France, but let's say it's a great, great facsimile. So, I mean, and the bread is amazing. They do soups, they do lobster, foie gras. As I said, in the wintertime, they do this pumpkin squash soup with white truffle. I mean, it's the kind of food and really sophisticated cooking that Las Vegas has, and people forget we have it right in our own backyard. Okay, most people say, well, I have to fly to France or Italy or New York for this sort of thing. Well, we have it right here, and Guy Savoy is on it, 5 days a week.
But you don't want to rush through that meal, right?
No, it's a 3-hour meal, and it's eating is entertainment too. But really, it's a big deal meal, great for romance, and just make sure that you bring your wallet. I mean, it's
when you talk about restaurants, it's so personal to whoever it is that's experiencing the food, and Las Vegas has the best of Las Vegas. Every organization has their choices for food, and I know that. And essentially you do that as well. But Desert Companion magazine also has some best of restaurants, right? I mean, you agree or disagree with some of those choices?
I have to agree with Desert Companion magazine because I started the awards there 25 years ago. Okay. And I still write for them on occasion. And I think they're the most thoughtful awards. As I tell people, they're not an everybody gets a trophy kind of awards, like you see with the newspapers and some websites. This is they get a cadre of food writers together who meet multiple times to discuss the most impactful and best restaurants of the past year. This year, we even had Heidi Napranella, who wrote for the RJ for 20 years as their food and restaurant columnist, and me and Jim Bagley and a fellow named Brent Holmes. We all got together and talked extensively and come to a consensus on restaurants that have made the biggest impact. And like as we talked about earlier, this year we agreed unanimously that Anima by Ito was going to be the restaurant of the year in Desert Companion. Okay, and Anima by Ito. I mean, there's is that the full name, or is it Ito? Aren't they two different restaurants? Or Ito is the tiny little Spanish restaurant near Spring Mountain Road. Right. And that's a tapas kind of restaurant. That's more classical but inventive Spanish tapas. Very inventive. Anima by Ito is in the Southwest. Much bigger place, much more inventive, sort of an Italian Spanish mashup in terms of the food and the creativity of the food. Much bigger menu. That's over by the DW and DWBC, southwest end of town. Right. A real pain in the ass for me to get to, let me tell you. Oh, yeah. But I go out there because the food is so good. Right. And Anima by Ito has been a huge hit with all the foodies and the gastronomes in town for all this past year. So it won our Restaurant of the Year award. Our Chef of the Year was Nicole Brisson, who I think you know. She's at Breza at the Resorts World. Also in Desert Companion. This is this month's issue. Yeah. Before you go on to the next one, let's talk about Resorts World for a moment. Oh, sure. Okay. I mean, it was, I guess, the last major hotel to open. Overall, were you satisfied with the food choices? I love it out there. I mean, I really do. I think they have a murderer's row of really great places. Good. Starting with Wally's, they have Bar Zazu, they have Caviar Bar, they have Carver Steak at the far end, Breza for Italian. They've got, as I said, they have Wally's, which is a great wine bar and wine restaurant. So it's pretty hard to go wrong with just strolling around Resorts World for their food. Plus, they have this great food court of these really, really interesting Asian restaurants where you can eat a lot cheaper and much more casually at this food court. And speaking of Asian restaurants, Desert Companion magazine awarded Asian Restaurant of the Year to who? Nakamura Ya. Little tiny place right there at Decatur and Spring Mountain Road. Been there at least 11 years, I think. Tiny Japanese Italian restaurant. Formal, casual? Oh no, this place is it's very, very casual. Nakamura Ya does this thing that is it's actually a style of cooking in Tokyo where they take Italian ideas like pastas and they use Japanese ingredients with them, like fish eggs with Italian pastas. They do a carbonara with manteca or these tiny little Japanese fish eggs, and they do again sort of mixing the metaphors of both Italian food and Japanese food. It's very tasty and very inexpensive. So it's Nakamura Ya is one of those hole-in-the-wall, obscure places that's very popular, but you have to know it's there. So they got our Asian Restaurant of the Year. And then, of course, the new Restaurant of the Year is one of your favorites, Scotch 80 Prime, which is an old restaurant that's been newly reincarnated with a new chef that everybody loves. It's just a wonderful steakhouse right there. Yeah. And to me, it was just as good or similar to what used to be there, right? Well, I think it's more inventive. I think one of the reasons it got new Restaurant of the Year is because the chef is Marty Lopez, and I think he's really made it a steakhouse with a point of view, and he's got some very inventive appetizers and things you don't usually see in the usual catechism of steakhouses of, wedge salad, and shrimp cocktail and all that. He really goes that extra mile to make it more interesting.
Yeah, I should mention, because we were talking earlier before about a couple of the new staples in town, Harlow's being Harlow's and Barry's downtown, Barry's Prime downtown.
Harlow's been a big hit. I love it, but like I say, it's so crowded no one goes there anymore.
Well, that's we'll figure out that one.
Yeah.
And what is your favorite food? And I know you have a wide breadth of ideas and thoughts and experiences in this, but if your last meal, John.
Well, it'd be French.
You're on death row and you're giving your last meal. What are you ordering?
Well, I love Italy. I love Japan. I love China. I love barbecue. But French food is what I dream about. So to me, it's the most elevated cooking, the most sophisticated cooking, the most interesting cuisine in the world. And it's a cuisine that's been copied more around the world. So you have to give it that credit for the technique they use and just the style of cooking they use. Plus, it has the greatest wines and the greatest cheeses. So French food would be it for me.
And what's the tip you can give people who love going out like you do, but want to watch their weight a little bit? And I mean, I don't know how you do this night after night after night and look so good, but
I wear all black.
I mean, but look, let's face it. You have these gourmet meals, these food we're showing here. I mean, it's a lot of calories.
Yeah, at my peak. I mean, I'm past my peak these days. I used to go to at least 10 restaurants a week. I'm probably down to more like 5 or 6 a week now. My tip, I think, is don't finish everything. Don't be afraid of leftovers. Leftovers can be delicious, and don't feel and don't fill up on bread. Right. Nobody loves bread more than I do, but don't fill up on bread. Let the chef strut their stuff no matter what it is. Save the bread for later. That's probably my best tip.
Eating Las Vegas is the name of his books.
Thank you.
And you can catch him on Twitter, Instagram, and what were you?
Eatinglv.com is my website. Eatinglv.com.
John Curtas with the C-U-R-T-A-S.
T-A-S. I put the ass in Curtis.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Ed. Bon appetit, everybody.
Bon appetit. Hey, good eating.